Hey guys, I'm Tiara Davis. Today we are going to learn about the greatest common factor and how to find it, the difference of two squares, and baby and big boy factoring. And I'd just like to apologize for my speaking if I'm not clear enough. I just got my wisdom teeth out, so it is going to be a little difficult for me to talk, but it's okay. And hopefully you guys can learn something. So let's get started. So when you are working with the greatest common factor, you're trying to find one number that divides into both of these evenly, and that number can reduce it and make the problem so much easier for you. So what numbers we're going to start off with is 15 and 30. What you're going to do is you're going to find numbers that go into 15 first. So 1 can go in, 2 can't, 3 can, 4 can't, 5 can, and so on, and then 15 can go into it. And as for 30, 1 can go into it, 2 can, 3 can, 5, 6, 10, and 15. So do you see two numbers that both match up and can divide both evenly into these two numbers? Yes, we can, and it's 15, and that is your greatest common factor. And the second part to finding the greatest common factor is if there is a variable. It could be x, y, k, but they have to be matching up, because if they don't match up, then it would just be plain, like you can't divide it into anything because they're not the same. So the first step to finding it with the variable is seeing what greatest common factor goes into both. And by knowing, you should know that 5 goes into 5 once and 5 goes into 10 two times. So when you have x's, well, it just doesn't matter, but when you have exponents right here, you are going to subtract. So 5 minus 4 is 1, so it's just going to be 5x, and that is your greatest common factor. So when you have a problem like this, the first step you are going to do is find the greatest common factor. And looking at it, the greatest common factor is 7. And then, so when you divide, you get 14 divided by 7 is 2, and then you drop the n cubed plus 1. In other words, it should just be n and that is your answer. So when you have this problem, it is 5k 14 minus 25k 13 plus 3510 plus 20k 9. It looks big, but honestly, it's super easy. So the greatest common factor is 5. Congratulations. We love 5s on here. And when you look, each of them have an exponent with their variable. And so when that happens, you're going to try and find the least common one. Not least common, sorry. The one that's the smallest. And so out of all 4 of them, we have 9. So we're going to put 5k 9, and that is what we're going to divide into all of these. So when you divide 5k 9 into negative 5k 14, you're going to get negative k 5. Because remember, you're supposed to subtract the exponents to get your answer. And then 5 divided by 25 is 5k 4 plus 7k 7k plus 4. And that is your answer. All right, so now we are moving on to finding the difference of two squares. So I have 4 problems up here, and the first one is x squared minus 9. So when you're finding the two squares, you're trying to find two numbers. It's basically the square root of this number. So, if I can talk, x times x give you x squared. So what you're going to put is x and x. And then you have 9. And what number is the square root of 9? 3. So then you're going to put 3 and 3. It's basically foiling, the reverse form of foiling, if you guys know what that is. And then you're going to do one positive and one negative so that it always gives you the right answer. And when you put it back into its FOIL, you should get the same answer. So our next problem is 4a to the 4th minus 9b to the 4th. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 parentheses right here just so it makes it easier for us. So we have 2 numbers here, and they both have a square root to them. So 4a to the 4th is going to give you 2a to the 2nd, and then you're going to put 2a to the 2nd here. And then 9b to the 4th is going to give you 3b to the 2nd and 3b to the 2nd. And then you're always going to add your plus or minus. Plus and minus. And that is your answer. Alrighty, so this problem right here, this one does not have an x, but that does not stop you from finding what the square root is. So what 2 numbers multiply to give you 16 that are the same? 4, right. So you're going to put 4x because it is squared, and then 4x here. So when you multiply them together, it gives you 16x squared. And then 36. 6 times 6 gives you 36. So you're going to put 6 and 6. And don't forget your minus and plus. Alrighty, and I'm going to give you this one to do by yourself. And then we will go over it. But it is y squared minus x squared. So if you just want to pause and look at it for a couple minutes, you can. Alright, so how to do this one, it's super easy. It looks confusing though because there's 2 different variables, but it is going to be x plus y and x minus y. And there you have it. Alright, so now we are moving on to baby factoring. And I wrote 3 problems on the board to help me with that. So for the first one, which is x squared plus x minus 90, how we start is we're going to find 2 numbers that multiply to give you 90 but add to give you negative x. And what 2 numbers do you think would go into that? Right, so we're going to have x minus 9 and x plus 10. So when you multiply that out, it gives you negative 90 and adds to give you x. Alright, so now for this next question, we have p squared minus 8p plus 15. So what 2 numbers are going to multiply to give you 15, but add to give you negative 8? This one's a little tricky. Right, so p minus 5 and p minus 3. Because negative times negative always gives you a positive, but when you subtract them, it gives you a negative. Alrighty, so I only have 2 problems because these ones tend to be a little more difficult in big boy factoring. But one thing I did leave out was baby factoring is when a is equal to 0, which nothing is where the x is. And this one, which is baby factoring, is a is not equal to 1, so that you are going to have something that is bigger than 3 and 2 and so on and so forth. So when you are big boy factoring, the first step you do is you're going to take 3a and you're going to multiply by 30, which is going to give you a squared plus a minus 90. And now you have a problem just like we did before. What two numbers add to give you 90, or multiply to give you 90, but add to give you a? What you're going to have is a plus 10 and a minus 9, because that'll still give you 1, but multiply to give you negative 90. And then the last step you're supposed to do is you're supposed to divide each of this by 3. And 10 and 3 do not go in evenly, so you take the 3 and you move it up there, so you get 3a plus 10. And these do go in individually, so it's a minus 3. And boom, you have it. Alrighty, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys learned something. Again, sorry, I can't really talk, but yeah, I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great Thanksgiving break. See ya.